Needless to say, I've received hundreds of requests to opine about Tucker Carlson leaving Fox News and Don Lemon leaving CNN, but I can tell you right now I'm not really going to say anything definitive because there's no way we can know anything definitive. I'm not one to rush breathlessly to the microphone to do an off-the-cuff hot take on what seems to be an important piece of news, though really this isn't a very important piece of news. I mean, it's just a shake-up in the media, but the point is I'm not one to run off and do ill-considered hot takes. I can tell you a bunch of things that we know about the landscape, and the landscape is that Don Lemon has been deteriorating significantly for quite a while, and his position at CNN has been shakier and shakier. For Tucker, it's possible the writing was on the wall with the $787.5 million settlement with Dominion voting machines or voting systems, but it's also possible that had nothing to do with it, or put it this way, everything is related, so it had something to do with it, but it may have less to do with it than you may think. It's interesting. The only actually interesting piece of this is that Tucker Carlson left because he was the face of Fox News. His show didn't make an awful lot of money because he was controversial enough that it was hard for him to attract big money advertisers. Not that big a deal. He attracted attention, and that's what media want. Of course, they want attention and more attention, and after that, yet more attention. And ratings. And Tucker Carlson was a ratings machine. So not much in the way of hot takes here. Obviously, what needs to be done is a respectful amount of time needs to pass. Both Don Lemon and Tucker Carlson, and of course Dan Bongino, let's not forget him, but they all three need to pronounce themselves. They'll make statements. Those statements will be careful statements that are meant to ensure that there's no possibility that the statement could come back to haunt them, so it'll be a statement statement with which you'll have to read between the lines. But otherwise, there's not much you can really know, and frankly, who cares? As I say, these things happen all the time. Big prominent people leave big prominent positions on a regular basis. It's certainly nothing surprising. It's hardly unnatural. It's the natural order of things. Interestingly, Dan Bongino and Tucker Carlson are, I'm going to say, at least a level, if not two levels above Don Lemon in terms of their intellectual capabilities. They're obviously significantly smarter. Don Lemon is an idiot, and he's an idiot who has depended for a very long time on his status as a faux aggrieved minority. He's adopted that status because it's allowed him to stay employed and make a lot of money for a long time, because anyone else who ever was as stupid as he was, as publicly stupid as he has been for years, would have been cashiered long ago. So his departure was inevitable. It may be mere coincidence that it happened at the moment, or at nearly the same moment that Tucker Carlson and Dan Bongino were cashiered from Fox News, but his departure has been in the cards for a very long time. It's just a question of how they would get rid of him. Interestingly, I watched Don Lemon's interview, if you can call it that, of Vivek Ramaswamy, and that's how you pronounce it, Vivek Ramaswamy, and Don Lemon was just an absolute idiot. He did the whole arch, how dare you thing. He tried to pull the black card, which is kind of funny because Vivek's skin is darker than Don Lemon's, even though Vivek is not officially a black man. Vivek is officially a brown man, but all these things are rather funny. But Vivek is darker than Don Lemon, but Don Lemon still tried to do the race card, and Don Lemon did the gay card, because yes, Lemon is gay, so he's a gay black man at CNN, and you would think as a result he'd be absolutely unfireable, but they finally got rid of him because he just finally became too much of a liability. Plus he's an idiot, and every time he goes on the air, he represents a level of embarrassment that CNN eventually would have to find intolerable. This wasn't true with Tucker came on the air, and his monologue at the beginning of his show, his show is called Tucker Carlson Tonight. Tucker's monologue at the beginning of his show has always been, I don't want to say always excellent, but it's usually an outstanding piece of work, usually from anywhere from 7 to 15 minutes long, and very incisive, very well written, very insightful. You learn something almost all the time. Tucker Carlson is a very, very, very bright man, as is Dan Bongino. But Dan Bongino is much more combative. Tucker Carlson is much more intellectual, much more highbrow. Dan Bongino is very pugilistic in his style almost. And that, of course, is always going to make you temporary. So what's going to happen in the future? Who knows? I mean, Don Lemon will try to find some sinecure somewhere, someone who's willing to hire a gay black man who's who's an idiot, but who's also very prominent and therefore will bring attention. And Tucker Carlson and Dan Bongino will probably go out independent, become part of the independent media, and will prosper. And that's kind of what's going to happen. But again, as to why all this happened, there are 1,000, 10,000, probably 1,000,000 different possibilities for reasons as to why all this happened. So why bother speculating? Why not let a week or so go by, let the various personages involved make some statements and shed some light on the matter? That's all I'm going to say on it. And thanks for listening. Please make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff you know you need to do so that you can help this channel prosper in the future. And we thank you in advance for all that.